Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm a Teen Day broadcast team member. I'm here at Busy Barns Adventure Farm with Miss Mariah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Miss Amanda. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for being here. So I have a few questions to ask you about Busy Barns.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, so first off, how many animals do you take care of here?
Oh, wow. Well, we have well over 100, probably 130 would be my guess. We've had lots of new baby animals born August and September of this month, including a baby alpaca, a baby donkey, and about 15 little kids, which are goats.
Cool. So just to let people know, where can they find the animals?
Well, the animals are obviously housed in a barn on a farm, and so they're in what we call our animal barn, which is up on the south side of our property, and you can probably hear the roosters crowing behind you. Yeah, and that's kind of a misconception in agriculture, that roosters always crow in the morning, and that's not true. As you spend the day here at the farm, you're going to hear them cockle-doodle-dooing all day long.
I like that word, cock-a-doodle-dooing. Okay, so what is your theme this year?
Well, our theme at Busy Barns, each season we pick a different educational topic that we're going to teach about. And this season we're learning about the honeybee and how important insects, this honeybee, this insect is to agriculture, and particularly for pollination.
Okay, so can you tell me a little more about why you brought in the bees?
Sure. You know, we have bees here at the farm all the time. We have a working, functional hive out in our fields. A honeybee hive has between 70,000 and 80,000 worker bees, which are the females. It has about 100 drones, or the males, and their job is to mate with the females. Excuse me, only one female. Do you know which female that is?
The queen bee.
The queen bee, absolutely. And all the workers, they just have to work. So that hive is always here. And then we brought in a special observation hive this year that we built, and it's back in our bee barn, which is back by the animal barn. And that bee barn highlights the honeybees, and then the families that visit the farm can look for the queen, and she's marked with a dot of yellow on her back.
Well, I'll have to look for her then. What inspired you to make Busy Barns?
You know, it was a family effort, definitely. And the farm started when we started growing summer produce and fall flowers, our chrysanthemums, which you can see up on our left. We started with 500 flowers, and we held a couple free events at the farm to help to sell those products. And then it just kind of snowballed from there.
Well, I'm glad it did. Are there any new things to the farm this year?
Yeah, we always are adding something new, and most families that come year after year and make it a family tradition will definitely point out, wow, that's new, or oh my gosh, look at that. So we always have to add something new, and keeps it alive and keeps it interesting. And plus, our family has a lot of unique and fun ideas, and so I don't think we're ever going to run on anything. It just takes a lot of time to do it. The new stuff this year is the bee barn with the observation hive, and we also have 2 gigantic adult hamster wheel racers. And that's just what they are. It's a big wheel that spins in place for like a hamster, but it's for people.
That's awesome. So what's your favorite part about the barn?
My favorite part about Busy Barns is educating. I am an educator by trade. I went to school for animal science, dairy business, and then also for education. And so I think teaching the families and exposing families to agriculture is my favorite part about my job.
That's cool. And quick question about the corn maze. Does it change every year, or is it the same maze over and over?
Well, it's different corn. It's always corn, though. And the maze is different as well, but there's no distinct pattern. Like, it's not shaped like a bee or shaped like a boat.
Okay.
It's just a random pattern. And the thing that is different every year, but similar, is that we always have educational questions in there. And this year we have 15 true and false questions, all relating to the honeybee. And each season those questions change based on whatever our topic that we're teaching about is. So if you know a lot about bees, you're going to get out pretty quick, and it takes about 20 minutes to get through it.
Even if you know all the answers, it still takes about 20 minutes?
It does, because it takes you that time to walk it. They're true and false. So if you dead end, Amanda, and you answer it incorrectly, like here's a question, Amanda. Do male bees have stingers? What would you say? So if you said yes or true, you would dead end, because that's incorrect.
Darn it.
The true answer is false. They don't have stingers, so you would be forced to go the other way, and you would learn the material as you go through the corn maze.
That's cool. I'll have to try that.
Yeah, I think you definitely should.
Yeah. Why is agriculture so important?
Well, do you like to eat?
Yes, I do like to eat.
Do you like to wear clothes?
I do like to wear clothes.
Sit on chairs?
Yeah.
Maybe drive a car someday?
Hopefully.
Yep. Sleep in a bed?
Yes.
Live under a house?
Yes.
That's all agriculture.
Whoa.
All of it. Everything. The only thing that's not agriculture is things that get mined out of the ground. But everything else starts at the farm originally. The chairs that we're sitting in have corn in them. The paper that you're writing on and is from a tree farm, and the pen has soybeans in it, and that's what it makes that ink roll. And the lipstick that you have on probably has a little bit of pig fat in it.
Okay.
So it's all from the farm, and it's where it originally started, and that's why agriculture is so important to everybody. And I think that's why we need to make sure that everybody's aware of this.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me a little bit about yourself, going away from the whole busy barn thing.
Sure. Well, I'm married. I've been married for 11 years to my husband, Paul, who works along with us here at the farm, and he also has a job off the farm. And then we have 2 young kids, a 2nd grader named Tawny and a kindergartner now. Oh, I'm so sad. A kindergartner, and his name is Trace. We live in Fort Atkinson. We have lived here for 5 years, and before that we lived in New York State for 7 years.
Okay, so you live on the farm.
Correct. I live next door to the farm. So it's my house, the farm property, and then my parents' house that I grew up in as a kid. So yeah, I'd say I'm on the farm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me about the New York State.
Oh yeah, why I got to New York State?
Yeah.
Well, after college, you do college and then they want to hire you, different companies. And I had gotten offered a position from a company called Pfizer. And they sell animal health products and also human health products. And so Pfizer offered the opportunity to go to New York State or to California. And my husband and I at the time were engaged, and we decided that New York State was more the size dairies that we wanted to work with, which is very similar to the state of Wisconsin. And so we chose to go to New York State. So they flew us out there and let us check out this big city, which it's not at all, Amanda. It's very rural. It's very country. It's upstate New York. It was actually 6 hours from New York City.
Whoa. And
so that's how we got out there with a job. And we stayed out there for 7 years and worked in agriculture.
That's cool. Okay, so what is your favorite thing to grow?
Ooh, that's a good question. But the initial thought, right when you said that, was mums. I really enjoy growing the flowers that we have here at the farm. I've been doing it now for 5 years, and it's fun to watch them get bigger and bigger every year as I get better as a grower. There's always challenges in growing crops, and corn and soybeans this year had a challenge of the drought. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, with the mums, we have a water irrigation system, so I could control how much water they got, and they did beautifully.
Speaking of the drought, how did that affect busy barns?
You know, we did good, actually. Like I said, the mums were fine because they were on that watering lines. The pumpkins and the corn, the pumpkins and the gourds, that crop, they're a fruit crop, and they actually prefer drier weather. So thankfully, the dry weather helped us, not so much the drought. So our family had to go out and hand water I think it's about 7-8 acres of pumpkins. Whoa. And we caught them at that critical time and gave them the water that they needed. And then we had an outstanding crop. It's high quality pumpkins because they like that drier weather. Now last year, not so much. We had a lot of rain and they were wet and they rotted pretty easy. Yeah.
Yeah, rotted pumpkins aren't so...
No, Now, the corn maze, when you go through the corn maze, Amanda, that's a little bit shorter than what it should be because the drought was not good for row crops like our corn and our soybeans. And so not a very good yielding year for our corn crop.
Okay. But the maze itself is still good and
Absolutely.
going.
It is still there. It's just a little bit shorter than what you would be used to.
Okay. So in past years, would it take longer than 20 minutes to go through the corn maze?
No, it's generally about that because it's always been about a 4-acre maze.
Okay, that's cool. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought.
No. Well, what else do you want to know about? What's your favorite part of the farm?
Oh, I'm a big goat person. Like, I love the goats. Like, over there, I loved it. And I couldn't at first figure out the red wheel thing.
Oh, sure.
But I figured that out. So what made you come up with that idea? How did you get inspiration for that?
Well, that red wheel thing that you're trying to describe is actually part of a tractor, and it's got a hose on it with a PVC cup. And that allows us to take, or the families that come and visit the farm, to take animal feed up to the goats. And then the goats go right up to the top of the bridge and eat right out of that cup and that dish. So it's a way for us to bring food up. What made us thought of the idea? Well, there's some other places that have something similar to that. And so we've just kind of used some other ideas and made our own version here at Busy Barns.
That's cool. So you're like, reduce, reuse sort of thing.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, and I'm sure you're going to notice when you go back on the obstacle course and you play in the culverts and, gosh, the corn. Most of the stuff that you see here is things that are farm-based items like tractors that we're reusing, and now they're an attraction or an activity for the kids to play on. And when we were kids playing on the farm, that's what we did. We rolled in the culverts that were used for drainage tile to drain the fields, and we climbed on the tires, and we swung on the ropes that were up in the haymow, and we built forts and went down slides. And so that's some of the stuff that we get to do here.
That's cool. I personally went on the big blue horse things.
Oh, sure. What we call the bouncy horses.
The bouncy horses, yes.
Or hop-along horses.
Yeah, those are fun.
They are fun, and there's some big ones for adults and some little ones for the kids, too.
Yeah, that was really cool. The colors here are, like, amazing. They're, like, eye-popping. Like, I can't even focus.
Yeah, we have lots of beautiful red barns. I guess red is our theme. In agriculture, everybody says, well, why are barns always red? Well, a fun fact is they're red because back in the day, red was the cheapest paint that you could buy. And so that's why farm barns are typically always red. And there's also a lot of other beautiful colors if you look at the tree line with the fall colors, and the trees are now changing. And it's truly fall, even though it feels like a summer day today.
Yeah, it's so nice out. So what would you say your favorite animal on the farm is?
My favorite animal is the cats and the kittens. I love them the most.
They're
my
so
favorite.
Cute.
Yeah. And every year we have the kittens at our house, and we keep them and make them friendly. So it's fun to have them, and then we bring them back to Busy Barns, and the families get to play with them, and then we send them home or adopt them out.
That's cool. So do you work with, like, FFA programs?
Yeah, we sure do. We have a great program here at the farm called the FFA Farmhand Program. This fall season, we have about 82 students that are volunteering at different stations around the farm, and their job is to make sure that the families are playing safe and that they are learning about agriculture. And so if you go up to a student and you ask them a question, they should be able to respond, and if they don't know, they'll find out and get back to you.
That's cool. So what was your idea for bringing in the FFA members? Like, what was your reason behind it?
It wasn't even our idea. It was a suggestion from the FFA teacher in town, Mr. Jeff Agnew.
Okay.
And when we first held our free events at the farm to sell some of the summer produce on the mums, Jeff had said, hey, do you want some students to come out and help you out? And I said, absolutely. And it's just kind of gone from there. The students love being out here. We love having them. We provide scholarships to the kids. We feed them when they're here. They get a shirt. And I think the biggest thing is they get to network with all the other students from the different chapters in our county.
Yeah, meet new people.
Absolutely. And so this morning, I'm going to talk about Brian here. Maybe he can hear me. Brian McCulloch said, yeah, tomorrow I'm excited. I get to work with Cody. Brian's from Fort and Cody's from Lake Mills. And he says, yeah, we're going to be in the feed bag together volunteering. And I said, you know what? Cody's coming in today too. He's like, yes. So he was excited to see his buddy that he usually gets to see out here at the farm. So there's some definite networking going on.
Building friendships.
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
Yep. And the kids, they also get scholarships, and we throw them a big party too. Right at the end of the season, that's their time to have fun at the farm, because they have to be serious and represent the FFA and represent the farm and themselves when they're here volunteering. But at the end of the season, when it's the farm to themselves, that's when they get to go on their hayride and bonfire, and then that's when they get to really have a lot of fun.
That's cool. So what's your favorite part about being involved with Busy Barns?
I don't know if it's my favorite part, but it was definitely eye-awakening how many different components of running a small business there are. So I'm definitely getting good at a lot of things, or I have to be good at a lot of things. And that's how being a farmer is in general. You have to know how to weld and fix things, and you have to learn how to grow the crops and manage the weather and care for animals and do your book work and take a break once in a while. So I think that's probably one of my favorite parts, is just every day something's different.
That's cool. So on an average day, how many families would you say are here?
It varies. It depends on the weather, and it depends on the day. And when October comes, it's gonna be fun, and that's when we get that great feeling here at the farm, and there's lots more families. So it just depends on the day and the weather.
Do you hold any special events?
Yeah, we sure do. Just like this, Teen Day is a special event. And then we also have another great event going on today. We're featuring Jones Dairy Farm products over in our feed bag, which is run by our local FFA chapter. And the feed bag, all the proceeds that they make go back to our students for scholarships and for their grant program. And the Jones Dairy Farm in Fort Atkinson, their retail store, has donated food products to the feed bag. I think they're doing some chocolate-covered bacon,
Ooh.
which you'll have to try, some white chocolate and dark
will.
chocolate. And they also have their, I think, ham and cheese sandwiches. And I know their pulled pork sandwiches and some other meat products over there. So that is a special event that we're featuring. And in the past, we've done tractor pulling features here. We've had big tractors here. We've had car racing here. We've done pork roasts on the farm for fundraisers for different organizations, and also had breakfast with the Easter Bunny.
Cool. So I was in the animal barn, and there was the cow in there. And that cow just was amazing and friendly, and it just kept licking my finger like that. I've never done that before.
Yeah. Well, and I think the one you're referring to is the baby calf. Was it the brown one or the white one?
The white one.
So the white one is a Holstein, and the brown one is a Jersey. And when they're little, they definitely do like to suck. They suck a lot because that's what they do. They drink bottles just like a baby. And they won't hurt you, so you can definitely put a couple fingers in there, and they'll suck on your fingers. They don't have any top teeth, but they do have bottom teeth, just like goats. So it's safe, and it's a fun activity to do if you don't mind getting a little slobber on you.
Nah, it's fun. So I'm looking at the pumpkins. Do you have like pumpkin carving contests?
You know, we haven't done that yet, but that's a great idea. That's a really good idea. We did have a gentleman that stopped out last week on a Saturday, and he was an art teacher from Fort Atkinson, recently retired, and he carves pumpkins. So he took one of our big ones. He's going to carve it and bring it out.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's more of the etching carving, not really truly carving into it. The disadvantage of carving into a pumpkin is it doesn't last very long because of the fruit.
Yeah.
So he's going to etch out the face and not cut it all the way open.
Okay, and who does the painting on the big hay barrels?
Well, that's a family effort for sure. My husband Paul does the base coat of the paint. My mother Mary comes up with the designs. And then my father will put on all the extra stuff. Like on Frankenstein, he's got to have his bolts. And on the bee, it's got to have wings and antennas. And then I get to do a lot of the detail face painting and more of the detail work with the spray paint cans.
Okay, that's cool. Because, to me, hay bales are usually just hay bales, but you paint them and transform them into other things.
Yeah, we use the animal food for a lot of things here at the farm. The first thing is when you first drive in is you're parking on animal food. That hay field is their food, and so we use it as a parking lot. We also use it for the hay ride, so we use it for people to sit on, and we use it for the animals to eat, and we also use it up in the hay mow for the kids to play in and go down the slides. And then we also use it as an attention getter. So we paint those round bales.
Okay.
To teach about the honeybee. That's why there's a big bee there. Okay. And to catch your attention when you're driving past on the road.
All right. Well, we'll be back after these short messages to talk more with you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Yep.
You're listening to the Teen Day Busy Barnes Adventure Farm Media Day broadcast, presented by 91.7 The Edge Daily Union and the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association.
How long has it been since you felt the rush of stretching your arm across the foul line, releasing a 10-pound ball, anxiously watching it roll down the alley, anticipating a strike, only to see it bounce into the gutter? Quarter Mania at Rock River Lanes in Fort Atkinson can help relive those memories and create new ones. They also have banquet services and Kingpin Adventure Golf.
Details and information are available by visiting rockriverlanes.com or calling 920-563-9511. That's rockriverlanes.com or 920-563-9511.
Since 1988, Diversified Personnel Services has been connecting motivated people with top employers in Jefferson, Dodge, and Dane County, along with Lake Country and surrounding areas. Employers who partner with DPS fund vital vocational programs for youth and adults with disabilities and other barriers to employment.
More information about DPS is available by contacting Ann Dancourt at 920-563-2437 or visiting dpsworks.com. That's 920-563-2437 or dpsworks.com.
UW-Whitewater's campus radio station, 91.7 The Edge WSUW, is hosting the 91.7 The Edge Teen Day broadcasting program this fall. The program gives 12 teens the opportunity to try out broadcasting before college. Support our efforts by keeping up on upcoming broadcasts at dailyunion.com and listening to the broadcast online at 917theedge.com. Thank you.
Now back to the Teen Day Busy Barnes Adventure Farm Media Day broadcast, presented by 91.7 The Edge, Daily Union, and the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association.
Hi, we're back with Miss Mariah at Busy Barnes Adventure Farms, and we just have a few minutes left, so I want to know if you want to answer a trivia question to win this amazingly awesome Daily Union pen.
I would love to.
Okay.
Can I try?
in a second, okay? Okay. What day of the week is most ice cream sold?
Ooh, that's a great question. Saturday.
Nope, it's actually Sunday.
Oh, no. All right. Bummer. I really wanted that pen.
You can still have it, I guess.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd just like to add?
Well, I would thank you guys. I would like to thank you for being here, Amanda, and for interviewing us. And I hope that you have a great time at the farm interacting with agriculture. And if you have any questions that don't relate to what day ice cream is sold, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. We have one question. We have a question from a little girl.
Mackenzie Waits.
From Mackenzie Waits. Would you like to...
What is your favorite hay thing?
Your favorite hay thing?
Your favorite hay design.
For me, Mackenzie, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite one that I did was the Frankenstein. Did you see?
I know. I got a picture with that one.
I know. I thought Frankenstein was really fun to do.
9-year-olds.
Well, thank you for asking that question, Mackenzie.
That girl's going to be a broadcaster someday. I can see it.
Hey, Mackenzie. Come here. You want to try? Okay.
Oh, we've got another question.
What's your name?
Kennedy.
Kennedy? What's your question?
I got a picture with Frankenstein, like Mackenzie did.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Do you have a question, Kennedy? Do you know what a question is?
What?
Yeah, it starts with a who, what, where, when, why. Like, who did this? What about this?
Kitties. How many kitties do you have?
Oh, my goodness. We've got lots of kitties. I think we have about 13.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Mama cats and toms. And then we have 2 baby kittens.
Oh, my gosh.
One's a tiger and a black and white one. There's an orange one and a gray one running around named Sugar and Little. And then there's 6 other little calico ones up in the barn that are up for adoption, Kennedy.
Oh,
well, I'm going to look at them.
You can sure go up and look at them and hold them up in the animal barn.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
May I say something?
Oh, we got one more.
Oh, no, that's yours.
You know how much I love cats?
How much do you love cats?
Love them.
Like this big?
More than that.
More than that?
Even more.
It's bigger than my arm span.
Yeah, it's bigger than this farm, too.
Oh, my gosh.
It's actually, my love for cats is as big as this farm.
Really?
That's how much I love cats.
That's a lot of love.
That's how much I love cats.
It's a lot of love. Well, thank you, Mariah, for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Miss Amanda.
No problem.
Team Day Transportation Services provided by Havelsboro Ford of Fort Atkinson. For information about their transportation services, visit havelsboroford.com or call 920-563-4444.
Okay, and we're back with, my name is Alex, and I am here with Mr. Evan Wynn. He is, would you like to explain who you are?
Sure. I represent the 43rd Assembly District. The 43rd Assembly District covers the townships of Cold Spring, Goshkonon, Sumner, Albion, Dunkirk, Rutland, part of Oregon, and then it goes south to cover Whitewater, Milton, the town of Janesville, not the city, and then the smaller towns like the town of Rock, town of Plymouth, Center, Edgerton, and it's a pretty big district geographically. Sometimes it takes me an hour and a half to go from one area of my district to another. So it's a pretty big district. It has 3 cities, 19 townships, and it's pretty, I would say, much of an agricultural rural district.
Okay. So, do you have any ag background?
Well, my grandfather had a farm. My father worked on the farm. He also was a truck driver. I decided I didn't want to pursue that. I was more into an adventurous mode when I graduated high school, so I joined the Marine Corps. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, got out, got a job at Kmart as a manager, and then one day an Army recruiter came into the Kmart, and we were talking, and he said, you know, the Army would give you a $20,000 cash bonus to join the Army and jump out of perfectly good airplanes. And as a young man that was single, that sounded fun. So I resigned from my position at Kmart, joined the Army, and I spent the next 18 years in the Army jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. Toward the end of my career, I worked with Joint Operations, and I was deployed to Iraq during that time period, and I dealt with providing personal security to general officers, VIPs, and dealing with getting the lawyers to and from Camp Victory to Baghdad, dealing with the Saddam Hussein trial. I retired in 2006 from the military and went to school at UW-Whitewater, got a degree in education. And then when I graduated from UW-Whitewater, I got a job teaching physical education and driver's education. I tell people I used to have dark brown hair until that first behind-the-wheel experience with that student driver, and then it went white. But then in 2010, I decided I would run for office. It was the first time I ever ran for any elected position. And I won, and I've been serving in the state legislature now for 2 years, and I'm running for re-election.
That's amazing, and may I just say thank you for serving our country.
You're welcome.
That's amazing.
Well, it gave me a lot of experiences because I think over my 22 total years in the service, I've probably been in about 30 foreign countries. One of the things I liked about it is no day was the same because of the job skill I had. You know, even in Iraq, one day I could be leading a convoy to Turkut. The next day I could be on Camp Victory doing something for the unit, and the next day be taking an air convoy providing security for General Miller to Ashraf. So each day was different, and I kind of like that. I don't like a boring routine job. And so that's one of the things nice about driver's ed. It was never routine. You always had a little bit of thrill there. And in the state legislature, it just turned out the past 2 years has been very eventful. There's been a lot going on in the state capitol, which I'm sure everybody's aware of. So I kind of like jobs that have that excitement.
Yeah, so you're keeping busy.
Oh, definitely. I tell you, there's so much to do as a representative. And I believe if you're going to do it right, you have to go to things like town meetings. So I've tried to make it to almost every town meeting in my district, and that's where you hear what concerns the people have and the towns. And I tell you one thing that's a common thread through all the town meetings is the problem with local roads. The state doesn't provide enough money to these towns to repair the roads. So for instance, you got Porter Township. They have 50 miles of roads to repair, but they only have enough money to repair 1 mile of road. So in 50 years, a road could go without repair. We have to fix that. My answer to that is what we have to do is take the money that we share with the local communities, and it's usually about 30 to 34%. We need to increase that, and one time increase it in the next budget, hopefully increase that up to 75% one time, and then in the next budget bring it back down to about 45 or 50%, because our local roads are in terrible conditions, and it doesn't matter how good the interstates are. If you don't have a way to get to the interstate, it doesn't matter how good the interstates are. And I also think a lot of it can be done with less waste, because a lot of times these projects are built and they're not well thought out. You know, one of the issues I'm working on right now that takes up a lot of time is the bypass going around Milton, Highway 26. And they built an interchange, an on-off ramps, about 2 miles south of the city where there's no business. It's just a country road, Harmony Town Hall Road. Now, where there's a McDonald's, a gas station, a convenience store, a car wash, all the local business, there's no interchange. There's no on-off ramp. There's no easy access. And DOT said, well, we'll put up signs and we'll take them 2 miles out of the city and bring them back through subdivisions. Well, you know, as a driver, that if you can't get right off the bypass and go to a McDonald's or a gas station, you're just going to keep going until you come to an exit where there's a local, a closer gas station or restaurant. And if we don't find a solution to this, the person that owns the McDonald's, the person that owns the mobile gas station there, will probably go out of business. And that'll take jobs, and that'll make it harder for Wisconsin families to put food on the table. So that's something we have to fix. Unfortunately, the legislators before me didn't see the problem, and now they're pouring the concrete, and it's kind of way late into the program to find a solution, but we still have to try.
I understand where you're coming from with that. Yeah, I know where you're speaking of. Isn't there like a bridge or?
Yeah, there's a bridge, and they spent several, probably tens of thousands of dollars to build a really nice bike path, and I think that's great. But when people saw that bike path on the map, they thought that was the frontage road. And so the owner thought it was going to be a frontage road there, which would have been great, but then it turned out to be a bike path. And you know, a lot of people, when they look at the maps, they're not experts like the DOT. And I think one of the things we can do as a state is require DOT to do an economic impact study. Before we build any road in the state, it's required that they do an environmental impact study. And I think an environmental impact study is important because we want to make sure that we don't disturb wetlands and habitats. But at the same time, we should be doing an economic impact study that says, you know, if we build this road here, this is the business that's going to lose business. This is going to impact this business negatively. This is going to impact this business positively. And that way, we as leaders who are not experts in road building can say, hey, wait, maybe we need to do something to change the plan because it's going to take out 60 jobs. And I think if we'd had an economic impact study, we wouldn't have the problems that we have in the city of Milton. But I've got a meeting with Secretary of the Department of Transportation, Secretary Gottlieb, on Monday morning at 9 o'clock in my office. We'll be meeting with him and the city administrator for Milton and the business owner that's affected by it, and hopefully we can come up with a solution to continue building the road and at the same time save that business.
And with like what you're saying with buying, or like the shops are go out of business and they're local, do you buy local?
Yes, I do. I think it's an important program. I think it's important that we support our local businesses. For instance, in Whitewater, where I live, we have a small business that sells shoes, and Bob Harold is the owner. And I buy my shoes there because they're better made. They might be a little bit more expensive, but they last longer. Instead of just going to, say, a box retail store and buying a pair of shoes that are a lot cheaper, but they're not going to last me as long. And it really doesn't do anything to support the community, because I know Bob does a lot of work with community organizations, with FFA, with high school groups. And so we have to support those that support our high school groups and the community.
Were you ever did you ever do like a 4-H program or an FFA or?
No, I didn't. When I was in high school, I was more focused on athletics, and I participated in the Future Business Leaders of America. But I came from a very small school because it was a rural community. I think I had 49 fellow classmates in my senior graduating class. So there, besides a few of the organizations, you really didn't have much opportunities. And that's why I think it's great that there have programs like this to get teens involved in radio, because this is a great opportunity for young people to see what is out there in the world and see what they might like.
That's awesome. Why do you like living in Wisconsin?
Well, when I retired from the military, I was actually stationed in Heidelberg, Germany, and we could have moved to anywhere in the United States when I decided to retire. Because of some of the injuries I incurred in the military, it was just time for me to hang up the uniform and start a civilian career. Of course, at that time, my daughter was very young, and she was trying to encourage Mom and Dad to move to Orlando, Florida, because of Disney World.
Oh, yeah.
But we looked at the different options that we had, and I had joined the military. I'm from Whitefish Bay, and so I was familiar with Wisconsin, being there as a teenager and joining the military. And when we looked at how states treat veterans, Wisconsin is probably the most friendliest state to veterans out of all 50 states. And a lot of people don't realize that. And during the past 2 years while I was in the legislature, I had the honor of being able to pass 4 pieces of legislation that was signed into law to help veterans in Wisconsin. One of them said, if you're in the military and you get a skill from the military, let's say a plumber, but you get out before this bill passed into law, if you got out of the military as a plumber and tried to get a job in Wisconsin as a plumber, you couldn't get a license because you hadn't gone through certain courses at tech schools. So what this bill did is said, look, if you're a veteran and you can prove to the state licensing board that you have the skills to be a plumber, then they can give you your license without you having to go through the same procedures. So now veterans that come to Wisconsin and come back after they retire or after 4 years or 6 years in the military, they can come back, show the proof that they can do the job and get their license and start to work instead of waiting 1 or 2 years to go through a formal education system. So, we were able to get 4 other bills passed that really help veterans. And so being a veteran, that's always close to my heart.
Wow. I did not know that Wisconsin was one of the friendliest.
Yes, we offer some programs that a lot of states don't. In the federal government, you have the federal GI Bill. And now the post 9/11 GI Bill, those are federal programs. But Wisconsin has decided that we're going to go a little bit further to help veterans a little more, so we developed the Wisconsin GI Bill. There's other programs that we have to help veterans, some that we need to work on this next session to make sure they're fully funded. Wisconsin has a program that allows veterans to receive a personal loans. Unfortunately, that program isn't fully funded. So there are veterans that need funds to get started. They can't get it. We need to work on the next budget to make sure that's fully funded.
Now, I heard there might be a work shortage.
Yeah, there is a worker shortage. There's certain skills that employers are looking for. And a lot of people think when I talk about this that we're just short welders But we're also short in the state people with certain skills, like truck drivers, service workers, people that work in the culinary arts. And we're also hurting for workers that have the skills to be a first-level supervisor or manager. So I've been working with the Wisconsin Technical College Board and the UW system to think outside the box, to work together, to see what we can do to get people the skills they need to take the jobs that are open. Unfortunately, I have people that contact me that have a degree from UW with a degree in social work, and they can say, I can't find a job. Well, just like for me as a education major, for every one job opening, there's usually a couple hundred people applying for it. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the other aspect, for a job of a welder, you might have 20 people apply, but 19 of them aren't qualified. Mm-hmm. So it makes it really hard to fill those slots. So we have to try to, between guidance counselors in high schools and the tech schools and the UW system, find a way where we can get people trained in the places where there's vast job openings.
Now, I think this would go under the category of what I just asked. What are your top issues that you're most concerned about?
Well, I think the biggest issue that we're facing as a state in the next session is healthcare, especially with the federal government healthcare recently be found constitutional. I think that's something that we have to be very careful as we establish federal healthcare in the state of Wisconsin, because while there are things that are good in the federal law, there's also things that it's going to hurt businesses. I actually had 3 bills. Unfortunately, they weren't passed into law that dealt with health care. One was with dental insurance. Right now in the state of Wisconsin, dental insurance companies can work together because they're exempted from the antitrust laws. So they get together and they set prices for services they don't even cover with their insurance. So the problem is the dentist provides this service. The insurance doesn't cover it, doesn't pay a single cent. They don't have a penny in the game. Yet they tell the dentist what the dentist has to charge you, the patient. So my bill basically said that if the insurance companies didn't cover the service, they couldn't set the price. I had quite a few co-sponsors on the bill. I had 48 Republicans, and it passed out of the committee on a 10-4 vote, but I couldn't get it to the floor for a vote. I believe that's a good bill. I'm going to bring that back. I also worked with Representative Strakota, a Republican, and this shows where you have to work together as a bipartisan team. And that comes from building relationships. So I worked with Representative Barca, Representative Strakota. Representative Barca is a Democrat and a minority leader on a bill that dealt with oral chemotherapy. Right now in the state of Wisconsin, health insurance companies will pay for chemotherapy if it's IV. But if you get chemotherapy that is delivered by a pill, they classify that as a medication. And of course, if you don't have a medication addendum to your policy, it doesn't cover it. To me, chemotherapy is chemotherapy, whether it's delivered by an IV or by you taking a pill. Mm-hmm. My wife had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in stage 4, and I saw the devastation IV chemotherapy did. And oral chemotherapy doesn't have the same side effects. And that's why I signed on to the bill. Unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere, but we'll try to bring that one back up. And then the third bill, I worked with Senator Lassa, a Democrat, that deals with Medicare supplemental policies. So if you're a senior citizen and you have Medicare, you can buy these supplemental policies. Unfortunately, the supplemental policies in Wisconsin do discriminate against pre-existing conditions. And that's one of the things in the federal health care plan that I think is good, is we shouldn't use pre-existing conditions to determine health care. And so I worked with Senator Lassa, and we wrote a bill. I was the lead author in the Assembly. She took the lead in the Senate. We tried to get it a hearing, but unfortunately, we couldn't get a hearing.
Oh, at least you tried.
Yeah, we'll hopefully bring them back in the next session.
That's pretty much all anybody can do, is try their best and hope for the best.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way. I have some constituents that think I should accomplish everything, and I understand that there's that frustration. I felt the frustration when my wife was treated for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and we tried to get insurance, and pre-existing conditions stopped it. But that's something I feel very passionate about. That and the oral chemotherapy, and in that insurance companies shouldn't be able to work together to set prices. And one of the things where, a lot of times because of the campaign season we're in, people say, well, you're just a puppet for the Republican Party, without looking at my voting record. I actually voted 19 times with Democrats because I thought their ideals or their bills were better. One of the things that I think we really have to do as a state is look at those areas where we need to work on issues that are going to help people. And that comes back to that oral chemotherapy. It comes back to the dental insurance bill. It comes back to a lot of things. But to work together means you have to have the personality as a representative to work with other people. So, you know, we have some representatives that if I get into the elevator with and I say, "Good morning, Representative Smith," they'll say, "Good morning." And now we might go up on the assembly floor and debate an issue and we'll disagree 180% different. But when we get done, you know, I can say, you know, "Good evening, good evening." But there are some people on both sides of the aisle that will curse at the person they disagree with. And, you know, I've heard language up there used against me by other representatives that I hadn't heard since boot camp in the Marine Corps. And when you have that experience, and then they come into your office and say, "Hey, I want to work with you on this," it's very hard to get past that and say, "Okay, sure, let me trust you to work with you on this." So a lot of things that I've done in the Assembly is to build that trust, to build that relationship with people on both sides of the aisles. And that's why I had 7 bills that were signed into law. All 7 passed with overwhelmingly bipartisan support. In fact, the bill that I got passed into law, which was a jobs bill to help people get jobs, passed unanimously, and my opponent in the re-election, Representative Jorgensen, said it was the best jobs bill he's seen and that we should have been doing this all along. And I think that comes because I've built relationships with people. I work with people. It takes me time to get these bills passed because you have to go to people and say, "What do you like about it? What do you don't like about it?" When they say, "Well, I don't like this," well, then you have to go back to the group that it started with and say, "Well, can you live if we change it like this?" So it takes time to do a bill right, but then I think the outcome is it has overwhelmingly bipartisan support. Out of the 7 bills, there was only 1 no vote out of all 7. So I think that shows my constituents that on a personal level, I work to get legislation done that's good for the state.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break, so stay tuned for more with Evan Wynn. You're listening to the Teen Day Busy Barnes Adventure Farm Media Day broadcast, presented by 91.7 The Edge Daily Union and the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association.
Two Rivers Bicycle and Outdoor sells popular bike brands, repairs all makes and models, and provides bicycle, paddle, and snow sport rentals. They offer indoor cycling classes led by certified instructors to stay fit during fall, winter, and early spring months. Located along the bike path at 102 West Sherman Avenue in Fort Atkinson.
For details, please visit tworiversbicycle.com or call 920-563-2222. Again, that's 920-563-2222.
Since 1973, the Fort Atkinson Community Foundation has made grants of over $13 million for educational, cultural, and charitable purposes for the Fort Atkinson area. Recipients use them to enhance their quality of life. The foundation also has a wide variety of scholarships available to Fort Atkinson area residents and Fort Atkinson high school graduates. During the last 3 fiscal years, the foundation has more grants than have averaged more than $1.2 million per year. In the past year alone, nearly $230,000 in scholarships were awarded to high school graduates and continuing education students. Various citizens have volunteered their time to write a column for the local newspaper, the Daily Jefferson County Union. Fort Foundation Focus explains certain aspects of the foundation and discuss some of the projects that it funds. Details on how to donate or apply for a grant are available at thefortfoundation.org or by calling 920-563-3210. That's fortfoundation.org or 920-563-3210.
UW Whitewater's campus radio station, 91.7 The Edge WSUW, is hosting the 91.7 The Edge Teen Day broadcasting program this fall. The program gives 12 teens the opportunity to try out broadcasting before college. Support our efforts by keeping up on upcoming broadcasts at dailyunion.com and listening to the broadcast online at 917theedge.com. Thank you.
Now back to the Teen Day Busy Barnes Adventure Farm Media Day broadcast, presented by 91.7 The Edge, Daily Union, and the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association. And we're back with Evan Wynn.
It's great to be back. Thank you.
Okay, so this is out of a blue question.
Okay.
What's your favorite pizza topping?
Well, I probably try to order the same topping despite my daughter's and wife's wishes. They like cheese pizza. My favorite is Canadian bacon and pineapple, Hawaiian topping.
Oh my gosh, that's what my mom and I get. That and mushrooms.
Well, I'm not a big fan of mushrooms, but I do like Hawaiian pizzas.
It's yummy. It's sweet and it has everything. Bacon. Too bad we're going through that pork shortage. Now, if you weren't in politics, where do you think you would be doing right now?
Well, I really like coaching football. I've done that for several years. I coached in York, Pennsylvania when I lived out there with the military. I coached for Whitewater High School, the offensive defensive line for the freshman team. I really enjoy football and coaching. I love teaching, whether it's physical education or driver's education. But I also like doing volunteer activities. One of the things I did for a while was help people with disabilities learn how to snow ski. And that was a lot of fun. I work with a lot of different organizations to volunteer with them, from organizations like the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the Disabled American Veterans, but also with organizations like Salvation Army, Operation Christmas Child. Operation Christmas Child is a really great program. My wife's really involved in that, and I help her with it. They take shoe boxes and put candy, toys, school supplies in it, hygiene items, and then wrap it, and it gets collected and sent out to kids all around the world who are poor. Some of them never even received ever a Christmas present. So she really does a good job. She's been doing that for about 7 years, and I try to help her out where I can with that. So if I don't win re-election, or if I decide not to run for office in the next term, I would go back to coaching football and working with local service organizations.
Nice. Why do you think egg is so important?
Well, I tell a story about that because I get asked that a lot. When I was stationed in Germany, I ran across an old German man, and he had fought with the Germans in the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. And he told me that when they had captured an American mess tent and they went in and they saw the beef, the cheese, the milk, the vegetables, he knew Germany couldn't win the war from that point on because they were scrounging to feed their troops. And yet the American farmer could grow all this, raise the beef, produce the milk and the cheese, and then get it shipped over to Belgium for our troops. He knew they couldn't win the war. And, during my time in the military, seeing places like Somalia, where the warlords used food to control the people. If you didn't do what the warlords wanted, they didn't give you the food. A lot of people thought there was a drought in Somalia, and that's why there was no food. There was warehouses full of food, but the warlords would control it to get the people to do what they wanted to. And therefore, that's why I see agriculture as a national security issue. If we can't feed our own people, we're going to be hurting as a country. So that's why I really look at things that are going to impact farms. I wrote a letter to the federal government this last session when they came out with the ruling that youth couldn't work on family farms. I think it's important that youth be able to work on family farms. Yes, there's the risk that somebody get hurt, but I think most farmers do their best to mitigate those risks. And yet a youth that works on a farm develops so many good skills. They learn a work ethic. They understand that food doesn't come from the grocery store. It comes from a farm. And then, recently the federal government also came out with a ruling that if a family farm has more than 10 non-family employees, they fall under OSHA regulations. And a lot of farmers are worried about that because they know the OSHA regulation means they'll be inspected. And that makes them spend more time on meeting compliance than it does on doing what they want to do. Raising food, dealing with their cattle, dealing with their pigs, dealing with their farms. And the other problem that we have in the state is DOT takes too much land. There's a farmer in my district that raised mint, and DOT came in to build a weigh station and took most of his farm. In the 43rd Assembly District, DOT project was going to probably be 1,000 acres of farmland lost, and we can't lose that farmland. We have to protect it. Well, I'll talk a little bit more about the agricultural importance. Recently they were trying to put a bypass around Fort Atkinson through Goshkonon. That was going to take 400 acres of farmland. And, I fought, went to the governor, went to DOT, and we were successful in getting that project killed. And so those farmers will be able to keep their farms. It was going to take out a cherry orchard. It was going to take out quite a few dairy farms. And fortunately, we were able to stop that project.
No, you have as much time as you like.
Okay.
I would just give you things at the end, but
okay.
no.
Well, Do you know this is a campus radio station?
Yes, it is. I'm an alumni of UW Whitewater. I'm a graduate there, a big supporter of the Warhawks, who will be playing football later on today. And I think it's great that gives not only teenagers but university students the opportunity to get involved in media, both at the microphone, behind the scenes, working with a lot of the technology. I know I'm amazed when I go into these radio stations and TV stations for interviews how much technology has improved and all the different things that they can do with technology. It's amazing. I mean, I have a Windows phone, and it really helps me a lot because I can be out there in my district talking to constituents and still receive emails from my office. I can actually receive documents from my office that is scanned in and sent to me so that I can still be productive without having to be tied to a desk.
Do you have anything to say to any campus UW Whitewater students?
Oh, yes. I think higher education is important. I think we as a state have to look at what we're doing in education. The last budget was a tough budget because we owed $3.6 billion. We were in debt. We were able to fix that, but that meant we had a very austere budget cycle the last 2 years. It's projected that we'll end this budget cycle with a $200 million surplus. We'll be in the black. That means we won't owe people when we start the next budget process. And one of the things that impressed me, especially with Chancellor Telfer from UW Whitewater, is yes, they knew they were getting cut severely in higher education, but they drove on. They continued to do the mission, which is to educate the students. They did a very professional job. And now I think we have to go back in this next budget and reinvest in it, especially in higher education. And I recently came out with an article where I talked about supporting the UW system budget request. And in there, it also is going to help us be more efficient. For right now, how we do budgeting is we give the UW system, say, $100,000 for energy. So if they do these measures that save energy and they only spend $80,000, what the state does is they take that $20,000 back and spend it on something else. So there's no incentive for the university to save the money. So what I'd like to do, and I'd like to see in the next budget, is that the university, if they save money in one area, they can take that money, either put it in a segregated fund that only they can touch, and build that up so that when they need to do a renovation on a dorm or a renovation on a classroom, they can use that money for that instead of, bonding for it. Bonding is basically taking a loan out. And I think that would incentivize them to save money. And also it allows the chancellors to have more say in how their university is run. So if they save $20,000 in energy and they want to take that $20,000 and put it into merit pay or to increase, to give every professor an increase in pay, that's fine because they found ways within their system to afford to do that. And I'd like to see the universities, every campus, to have that flexibility.
Well, we're here at Busy Barns. Have you ever been here before?
No, this is my first time. I've driven by it quite a few times. I've always wanted to stop, so this was a good thing. When I got the invitation to be here, I said I can basically kill two birds with one stone, come and support teens on media and the radio, and also stop by and see Busy Barns.
I never really been here. I was kind of jealous of all the other kids that got to and told me stories. So this is like a mini Disneyland to me, or it's just so fun.
Well, that's one of the things I do like about going to the county fairs. And another nice aspect of this job is my district goes through 4 counties, Dane, Jefferson, Rock, and Walworth. So I get to go to 4 county fairs every year. And I love walking through the exhibits. I love walking there to see it. My wife and I enjoy the rabbit exhibit the best. She loves little bunny rabbits. And so we get a time walking by and seeing them. But they had a display where they had eggs that were in an incubator, and you could actually, if you had the time, watch as these little chicks would come out of the egg. And I think that really encourages people to understand the importance of ag in places like this. This is a great place where you can bring the family for a beautiful afternoon and have fun at the same time, learn the importance of agriculture.
Yeah.
And it supports a local business because a lot of people don't realize farmers are businessmen. I mean, if you really look at it, the amount of money the farmers spend on equipment, on production, on employees, on payroll, they probably would be considered a $1 million business infrastructure because that's how much they have to manage. And so these farmers are businessmen. They have to manage payroll. They have to manage dealing with all the regulations we put on both at the federal and state and local level. So it is a business, and that's why I encourage people to buy locally, whether it's at farmers market or, you drive by some farms, you see the sign that says, pumpkins for sale. Yeah. And I think it's important you stop and support that local farmer because he's a local businessman, just like the guy that sells shoes in Whitewater.
Yeah. Have you looked around here?
Just a little bit. I had a little bit of time before I came and sat down for the interview. It's a nice operation.
Yeah. What do you think would be your favorite part of this farm?
Well, I hate to say it. I've been watching those kids bouncing on the horses.
We raised the other team members and we got Chris to go on it.
See, and I was thinking I'll probably look silly being an older person jumping on that.
I'm going to have to race my little nephew.
Yeah. Is there anything specific to, legislation-wise or anything, as far as the family farm, California, Wisconsin, is there anything you can kind of talk about, specific that we can do to save, Wisconsin's agricultural heritage?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to do to make sure that we make family farms viable comes back to looking at some of the laws we enact and the impact it has on farmers, because a lot of times we pass laws, we're thinking about the traditional business, building that sells a product. So we pass the law and it has a collateral damage, if you'd say that, on the local farm. For instance, we have estate laws and capital gains laws, and I understand the importance of those, but I don't think people realize that when a farm is passed on from a family to the sons and daughters, it falls under that capital gains and estate tax laws. And they don't have the cash. It's not like they have a bunch of cash sitting in the safe or underneath a mattress to pay the taxes. But all those tractors, combines, are all rated at a certain value, and it's taxed based on that. And we have to look at what we can do to fix that so that the father and mother can pass on to the sons and daughters that family farm to make sure it's growing. We have to look at what we can do for people like yourself that wasn't raised on a farm but might want to get into farming, what we can do to invest in them so that they're able to purchase a farm. I think we also have to relook our eminent domain laws. That's one of the bills I've been working on. Been working on it for about 18 months. It's still not ready for prime time because it's been back and forth between different groups, myself, the drafters, about 5 times. But I think that's what makes a bill good, is to protect personal property. Because right now, because of eminent domain, the government can come in and take land, and they don't fully reimburse it. And one of the thoughts I had in the bill is that if we're going to buy farmland to build a road, we shouldn't just pay the farmer for the land, but he would have made money off that land for years from the crops he would have raised. So the state needs to reimburse him for also the cost that he's missing out on. Some of the other things that we have to look at is when we look at a lot of environmental laws. I just was reading an article about wanting to create a buffer zone around farms. Well, when we do that, what we're saying is we want to take production land out of production. And that's going to reduce the amount of crops. And as you saw this summer, we had a drought. And that drought devastated our beans and our corn. And if we take more production land out, we'll have even less corn. So that is something I always look at in every legislation, how it's going to impact the farmer, whether it's a dairy farm, a grain farm, or a beef farm, or a cattle farm, or any other type of animal farm.
Well, that's all the time we have.
Well, thank you for having me on the program.
Well, thank you for being here. Good luck in your next in your election. And
it comes up in a very short time period of about 5 weeks. November 6th is an election. I encourage everyone to get out there, get registered, and vote. I would like to encourage everyone to vote for me, but I definitely would like everyone to vote, because that is an important American right, is to vote, to have your say. And I encourage everybody to get out there and vote. I'm heartsickened when I read that only 21 or 22% of the people come out to vote. I was in Iraq when they had their first election, and there's people that walk 7 miles in Iraq, which is a pretty warm country. It's about 140 degrees there in the day during the summer. But they walked 7 miles to go to their voting booth to vote. And I wish we could get that same spirit instilled in Americans to come out and vote on November 6th.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
You've been listening to our special Teen Day Busy Barnes Adventure Farm Media Day broadcast presented by 91.7 The Edge, the Daily Union, and the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association. The WBA is proud to support the mission of the 91.7 The Edge Teen Day Broadcasting Program. The 91.7 The Edge Teen Day Broadcasting Program is a community educational program through WSUW-FM for teens interested in pursuing broadcast careers. We'd like to thank Representative Andy Jorgensen, Mr. Terry Virgil, Mariah Hadler, and Representative Evan Wynn for being today's featured guests. Rock River Lanes Diversified Personnel Services and Two Rivers Bicycle and Outdoors as the Teen Day sponsorship team. Our background music, Old MacDonald Had a Band, by Steve Race, is courtesy of EMI Music. Visit 917theedge.com to find out how you can get a copy of today's program. Our next broadcast will feature Seth Arp and the musical group Searching for Seas. On behalf of the entire Teen Day broadcast team, we thank you for listening, and remember to thank your local FFA, chapter, and farmers for keeping food on the table.
You're listening to 91.7 FM, WSUW Whitewater.